Hello, everybody. It is Sunday, the 6th of November. I want to talk about what is going on really in the Middle East at the moment. I've been watching so many rabbis, and my hair is standing on end. The way they are justifying what is happening, and again, always referring back to Torah and saying that was the will of God and we will follow it. And I mean, okay, I do not read Hebrew, and if somebody can tell me that it's actually written in some other way, please do so. I can only refer to the King James and to the translation. But in my translation, it says something completely different. So if we go that entire story way back then that they're referring to now, overcoming your enemy and leaving none alive, and that is the will of God, then I tell you what it says in my book. If it says something else in the Torah, let me know. So, from the beginning, Moses, in a really state of enlightenment, received a knowledge of God, which were the Ten Commandments. It was the law. And then he chose a guide to guide them through the wilderness to the promised land. He chose a guide. And even later on in Acts, I forget his name, I think it was Simon, the first martyr, recounting the entire story, actually referred to that guide as a messenger, as an angel of the Lord. So not the Lord himself, but an angel. Only one part of the Godhead that would lead them. And if you see the story, you can see what that guide was. It was fear, and it was the knowledge of danger. That is what led them, which is only one way of knowing. There are many angels. This one we call Satan. And as they go along, Moses writes another law, the law of Moses, which is a long, drawn-out law with many points to it. But already under the influence of fear, already guided by fear. So whereas the first law, the Ten Commandments, do not create fear. That's not why they're given. There is actually no mention of punishment. It just says, I give that to you so it should serve you. And you're actually free to do what you want with it. But, you will create outcomes, obviously. But there was no threat with those Ten Commandments of punishment. Whereas in the law of Moses, it most certainly is. And there are punishments in that law that are so brutal. And some of them are actually death sentences. So if you have a commandment that clearly says you shall not kill, in the first instance written by the hand of God himself, written in stone, but then you have a law that says you can put somebody to death, which is killing somebody. So that's in direct opposition to the Ten Commandments. There are other things in the Ten Commandments, as like you should not desire something that belongs to somebody else. But yet, led by the Spirit, they did exactly that. They did exactly that. And it was the spirit of fear that went before them, brought the knowledge. And it did two things. One was, as it went before them, it would affect their enemy. Fear would affect their enemy, which obviously made them a lot less effective. In themselves, as the knowledge became clear, because they went toward it every time, they never went around. Because, well, I mean, fear has got the knowledge of danger, and that's where it will lead you. That's all it knows. So as the danger becomes clear and present, that fear turned into strength. That is what happens, fight or flight. You get the strength. There was other knowledge that came on that energy, like the knowledge of the trumpets at Jericho. So that is how they entered, conquering, into the promised land. Now, when Joshua recalls the entire story to the people, and that is Joshua 24 in my book, starting at verse 13. So recounting how all their enemies were overcome, led by that spirit. So from verse 13, and I have given you a land for which ye did not labor, and cities which ye built not, and ye dwelt in them. Of the vineyards and olive yards which ye planted not, do ye eat. Now therefore fear the Lord, and serve him in sincerity and in truth, and put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the flood, and in Egypt, and serve ye the Lord. And here, 15. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served, that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. That is what Joshua says. That is what Joshua says. And it may seem evil unto you, but as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And we will serve him in fear. We will create the energy of fear. So, and he says, first of all, to say it is the will of God, for starters, no. It is, so much of it is straight against the Ten Commandments. That was God's will written in stone. Secondly, it may seem evil unto you. So Joshua is actually floating the idea that this could be evil. Yeah? And he made a decision, a conscious decision, to go that way, to make fear his Lord. And the knowledge that will be brought on fear, and the strengths, the physical strengths that it will give you. Joshua made a conscious decision to make that his Lord, to elevate that one above everything else. There shall be no other way, no other knowledge than that. And I said, he said, it may seem evil unto you. The only justification I can see in this text, why it may not be evil, is that it gives you land which ye did not labor, and cities which ye did not build, and vineyards and olive yards which you did not plant. It will give you all of those things. And that is the only justification I can find in here. To say that is not evil. Now you tell me, you be the judge. As a human being, is that righteous? Is that morally justifiable? You be the judge. You tell me. To me, it is not. And clearly, as I said, Joshua made a choice and they were free to choose. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve. They were free to choose. They were free to walk away, and they chose not to. And the only justification, as I said, is that you will receive, well, the riches of this world, basically, isn't it? So if anybody throws Torah at you and says this is the will of God and it's the only one, no. From the start, it was only an angel that led them. That means one part of the Godhead, not the fullness of it. They made that part Lord. They made a conscious decision to make that part Lord, to elevate it above everything else. They were free to walk away, and they chose not to. So no, a conscious decision was made, and now everything is according to that. And good and bad becomes according to that decision. But it was never the will of God, the fullness of God. It is against a lot of what is being said in the Ten Commandments. And no, it's not written in stone. It was a choice. You have the choice now. You can reject that. You can reject it, and you can speak from the knowledge of another spirit that is also part of the Godhead. You can speak out of compassion. You can speak about justice, Michael. There are others that would speak against it. It is not the only voice in us. Anyway, I really think people should be aware of what this actually says. Because I've heard pastors preaching on this. Yeah? You must serve the Lord in fear. Glory, hallelujah. You know, it is written here. It is the only truth. You must do according to it. It is God. It never was God to start with. Only a servant. And then know that you are free to choose. They were free to choose, and so are you. Don't let them tell you that it's the will of God and it cannot be any other way. They had a choice, and so have you. Then speak against it. If this seems evil unto you, then speak against it. You have every right to do so. Anyway, I'll leave it at that for today, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.